Okay, now we're ready. A little tradition. How's David Criner?
I'm doing fine. How you doing, Matt?
I'm doing great. So David Criner, I've had people actually ask for you to come on. Thank you very much for calling me. It's good to see you. I miss hanging out with you. We had a lot of fun.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun back in those days. I think it was 2 years together, wasn't it, back in juveniles? Approximately 2 years?
Yeah, what year did you leave patrol?
I was hired in, let me get my thinking straight, 2010 in March. I went to patrol, and I think I was promoted to juveniles in October.
Okay.
And then in 10, and then I left in January 1st of 13 when I took office.
We left at the same time.
Yeah.
You left for a constable, and I went to work at the DA at the top of the election year.
Yeah, correct.
So we have Constable David Criner, also known as Investigator David Criner.
Yes, sir.
Deputy David Criner.
Yes, sir.
Trooper David Criner.
Yes, sir.
And were you guys called investigators? I already forgot.
For DPS?
Yeah, once you leave the streets.
Well, we were called, we were investigators and sergeant investigators. It went back and forth for several years because of the change in the hierarchy of DPS.
Okay. Yeah, you guys had some of the kind of name-only sergeant ranks, right?
Correct.
Okay. Well, now you want to be Sheriff Criner.
Yes, sir.
All right. So when I'm trying to put all this together, when did you go to the DPS Academy? Was that your first law enforcement job?
No. In 1981, Dallas Smith hired me with the sheriff's office here.
Okay, I forgot about that.
And Gary and I were partners back then. He was my lieutenant on patrol. And we got our undergrad. My wife and I finished our undergrad at UTPB. In January of 84, I went to DPS Academy.
Okay, I'd forgotten about all that. So was this back in the days when they would still wake you up in the middle of the night to go to the gym and fight?
We'd have to do that, and also a spelling test, which wasn't very fun.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And grass drills, a lot of PT back in the early morning hours at the DPS Academy.
Yeah, that's a real thing. It still is, from what I understand. It's not. I mean, everything's gotten softer, all the boot camps, and all that. I mean, even the Coast Guard boot camp, they start doing the hold your hand up when you're stressed thing. I saw them doing that. I was there for an NCO school, and I saw a lot of that going on. But
we had boxing without headgear when I was there.
All right.
So
I can't imagine.
That's how that was. So,
yeah,
now they're called self-defense classes, so it's not really full-fledged boxing anymore, to my understanding.
Yeah, and they've also I forget the guy's name. I took a class from him. Before I left the sheriff's office when I was still in SWAT, and they were getting big into Krav Maga.
I'm not sure what that is.
Israeli fighting system.
Now, was that with Erwin Berlarda?
Erwin, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Erwin was Krav, but they've gotten into a lot of the kind of the Brazilian jiu-jitsu ground fighting, like stuff that really worked. Because when I went in, it was a little bit of everything, and it just sort of depended on where you went. Some of it worked and some didn't. I got real big into Aikido and realized it was horrible on the streets unless you did. I mean, I can't say it was horrible, but I got to study a couple of different styles, and there are things that worked and things that didn't work, and you had to be really, really good. But the thing about Krav Maga and some of those other systems is you don't have to train. Like, that doesn't have to be your deal. It's like the guys on SWAT. A couple of those dudes, Chris Fuentes, who worked with us in the sex crimes unit at the sheriff's office, and Miguel Ramos and some of those dudes, they could fight.
Yeah.
Ground fighting. They did submission wrestling and stuff in the police Olympics. And then there are guys like me that I've never been a great fighter.
Right.
I was just, being tall, being kind of spidery, as I was when I was younger out there. That's just tough for ground fighting.
Because when we had that self-defense classes at DPS, I wrestled in high school. And
see, I love this. I'm remembering all these things.
I was glad that in wrestling, you have to use leverage, and that helps me out quite a bit when I'm on the streets.
Yeah,
using that leverage.
Yeah, a lot of the ground fighting stuff. It was really cool to learn. My wife did it. She did judo and jiu-jitsu until she blew her shoulders out. But it's amazing what a little bit of training will take with you. 3 or 4 techniques, and you got it. I'll tell you one of my funniest street stories, the Aikido street story. You've all seen the Steven Seagal movies where he does the clothesline thing. The guy runs, and they go in a circle, and he goes flying. It's called a reminiscing, and it's essentially a dance. It's hard to do that in real life unless you're really good and the guy's really drunk and not going all that fast. But it's circular and it's a spin. You do this anyway. I got a foot chase with a guy.
Yeah,
and dark of night, he's a felon, wanted. He's trying to get back in his house, and we had no idea what was in his house. So it's like catch him before he gets there, and I'm running my usual 30 pounds of gear and body armor down the street. And my corporal is Chris Hoban, was coming to help me, and he came up to the guy's backyard, and he had a big porch. It was a mobile home. He jumps up on the porch, and I grabbed his coat just as he got up on it. I was tired and all that stuff on. I was like, there's no way I'm going to jump up here and tackle him on the porch. So I grabbed it. Well, what I did, I off-balanced him just enough that he started to fall toward me on the porch, and he turns around. So there's just this, quite literally, it turned from a foot chase into this man falling on me. And I stopped, and I just kind of held my hands up, caught him right in the sternum, and he did that same thing like a Steven Seagal movie. Bam, and he was on the deck. And I think I sold like 3 memberships to my dojo. Like, it was pure self-preservation. But,
that's good.
Yeah, so you were elected constable, and we worked together. I was a sergeant in that unit, and we did juvenile offenders, juvenile victims. We did all the sex crimes. All that was you, me, and Chris Fuentes.
Correct.
We had a blast in that. I mean, it's a horrible topic to work in, but we were a very solid team. Well,
we realized that we were there for the victims.
Yeah.
And we made sure that we did took care of the victims.
Yeah, and isn't it weird, though? Also, one thing I remember you did was you took care of all or 90% of the registered sex offender verification.
Yeah. And that was I love doing that because I know who they have preyed on, and I would make sure that we had our thumb on them. I would check them monthly to make sure they were living where they were living at, working where they're working. If they weren't, then we filed on them.
That was one of those wonderful things as a supervisor for me, because I could just turn it off, and if somebody called and complained, hey, nobody's checked on this guy, I'd be like, yeah, they have. I'll pull it up. I'll pull it up right here. Because we had the state system that tracked, and then we had to actually physically go
and do a report.
Go check on them, and you did it 3 times as much as was required.
Yeah.
But that was strange. It's tough on the mind. It's kind of tough on the soul to see all that stuff. But I think, first of all, we were the right guys for the job, because only certain cops can do that. Yeah. And we always joked about that. I did undercover like a couple of times helping guys, and I'm terrible undercover. I have no game face, and who's going to sell?
Yeah.
Who's going to sell weed to this face or
look at me.
Meth or anything else? Unless I go to Vegas and they try to sell me drugs all the time. But at the same time, you didn't want those guys working child molesters, because we could sit across from them and elicit a confession, and other guys that just want to jump on them. We do too. We just played them a little bit different. But so I remembered your run for constable, and you made it. Starting the 2013 year was your first year as constable, precinct 1. And you left for that, and I left for the DA's office about the same time, and everything scattered out. So how's the constable thing been? It seems like you had a bird nest on the ground once you got it all set up and sort of got it.
Once I got it going the way it should have been ran, it's a nice job. It really is. I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed getting to know the people. I have the freedom to go out and help others, and now I have a desire to realize that the landlords do have rights, and understand that, and they don't understand the rules sometimes. And I said, well, look, these are the rules. We have to go by them. And they don't understand that. So, but it's not fair. I said, I understand it may not be fair, but we have to do the right thing.
You guys do a lot of eviction law.
A lot of evictions, yes, sir.
Isn't that what most of it is?
Yeah, probably 90% of my job is doing writs for evictions, and then the small percentage is maintaining the JP court.
Oh, it's kind of like, you're kind of like a bailiff.
Yeah.
Is what I remember those guys doing. Right on. And so, let me see. So you had 1 re-election?
Yes, sir.
Is that right?
Yes, sir.
So 1. And then how did you wake up one day and decide to be sheriff? What made that?
Well, it's a long story. As we've talked about it before, my desires when we were partners. And I struggled with that. I struggled with the day that when Painter passed away, and they were going to appoint somebody that following Friday. I said, this is too quick. And I struggled that night, and I prayed about it.
You mean between
for the appointment in May,
in May.
Back in May. And I struggled. I said, this is too quick. This is not, we shouldn't be doing this right now.
Right.
But they decided to go forward with it, they being the commissioner's court. And so I said, I made some commitments to people, and they said, hey, you promised us that you would put your name in the hat if the opportunity presented itself. And I said, well, yeah, I did tell you guys that. So I put my name in the hat, and they decided not to, they tabled it the first 2 times. And then either the first or second time they tabled it, and then they appointed Richard Gillette as the acting interim sheriff. And so I just backed out of the picture. I said, I'm not motivated. I don't feel like it. I'm going to stay where I'm at. Like you said, I have a good job. I'm enjoying it. And then circumstances changed as time passed by. And I began to struggle again. I said, Lord, what do you want me to do? Where do I go? And doors started opening, and just confirmation started coming in. And I talked to Judy, and I said, Judy, what do you want to do? And we did it, and we've been blessed ever since. Just
fantastic.
I say crazy things, crazy in a good way. I'll tell you a story. The day that we filed the paperwork to become sheriff, we went back out to my car and sat there. My phone started ringing. And I said, I wonder what this guy wants. And he told me, he said, you just filed, didn't you? And I said, yeah, I did. He goes, I knew it. That's how quick confirmation came.
Yeah.
And that's crazy, say, wow, that's an instant, confirmation that we made the right choice. And now we've been in full throttle ever since.
Well, there were, as I recall, even when you and I were in offices next to each other, there was always, like, for the last 3 terms, rumors that Painter was going to retire. Mm-hmm. And I was never in the circle when they were having that conversation. It's just I'm getting it second and third hand.
Right.
And people were saying, he's going to retire, he's going to retire. And then when you ran for constable, then the rumor or hopefulness or whatever people were saying, I bet Criner's going to run for sheriff.
Yeah.
And we're all like, I could see that.
Yeah.
That'd be the thing. So.
Well, in my career prior to running for constable, I had the traffic law down.
Mm-hmm.
I had the experience of the criminal law down. And then with working with you, I had the experience of the family code down. I just didn't have the civil
code. Yeah.
Yeah, remember that? I didn't have the experience of the civil because I never was in civil. And Painter said, you need to go get civil law down in your resume. And he encouraged me to run for constable. And I said, I don't know. Again, he said, you need to do that to have the full 4 phases of law enforcement in your resume. So that's one of the reasons why it pushed me towards that direction.
Right on. And I remembered a couple times when I was at the DA's office that you were the guy I would call sometimes when I needed that. If I could get a hold of one of the attorneys or I was out on the street or whatever, for especially, with all that's going on with oil field and housing shortage and all the crooked landlords and that kind of thing that were going on. That's an absolute mess.
Trying to do things that they want to do, but you can't do because your hands are tied because you can't do certain things to tenants. There's tenants have rights as well as the landlords do. So
yeah, it's amazing. But I never understood all that constables did. And then more I was into it, I got to be friends with them and then worked with some and saw how what a unique position you guys are in, and especially in Texas, right? Aren't Texas constables a little different than average in a lot of places? Like different. I
haven't researched that much. I just know what we were doing here in Texas.
I may have just made that up. I could be thinking about. I'm thinking about something else.
Yeah.
I was in a conversation with some guys on Reddit, and you go to up north, Wisconsin and above, and into the Northeast, Midwest into Northeast. And even the sheriffs there are weird.
Yeah, they're different.
So, and I can't remember if I talked about when Tom Hain was here. If he didn't, I meant to. But I don't think people who live in the city understand how much they're affected. People in the city are affected by sheriffs and constables. That when your county, like when we were deputies,
right,
investigators with the sheriff's office, and you as a constable, me as a DA investigator, that we have jurisdiction within the city limits.
Correct.
And I was thinking about it last night, that pretty much the only county law enforcement that doesn't do the majority of their business in the city limits is patrol.
Yeah.
Does that sound right to you?
I believe so.
Because DA investigator, most of the time I was in the city.
Yeah.
And investigator, most of the time in the city.
Yeah.
I mean, our cases originated out of there, but we weren't physically in the county as much as a lot of times. So, and then,
just like mine, my precinct is West Midland County, but I'd say 95% of the papers I serve are inside the city limits of Midland.
Yeah,
they're not out of the county.
Yeah,
and and I stay busy. The work, people are shocked sometimes when I get you know how I worked. My work ethic. If I get something on my desk, how soon do I look at it? I'm out the door working on the case.
Yeah.
And they were saying, this You already did that? How did you do that so fast? That's just the way I'm wired to do stuff.
You're also a natural morning person.
Yeah, I like doing stuff in the morning.
Yeah, very natural guy. Hey, Sarge, you coming to work? David, it's 7:30. I'm still in bed.
Matt, where you at?
Yeah. But hey, when you needed a 3 a.m. guy, that was me.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
And everybody, we talked about this, all the candidates, I'm amazed at how busy you guys are. Yeah. You've been really busy.
I've been extremely busy.
Yeah. How's it working out so far?
It's going good. I'm tired,
Yeah.
It's exhausting, but it's been good. I'm thankful for the wife I have,
She's awesome. Yeah.
I've very blessed. I
look at the three of us back there and all we put up with at work and the home lives we all had.
Yeah.
Were amazing. None of the three of us could be with more perfect people.
Yeah.
To have that place to come home to and put that badge on the dresser and do your thing. That's super important.
Yeah.
That job particularly changes your nature and changes how you see things and how you see people.
Yeah.
And
people don't realize what we went through. A lot of our cases were either injuries or sexual assaults of kids.
Oh yeah, a lot of child molesters.
Yeah. And people didn't realize. And my wife and your wife, bless her heart, know what we're going through for those many years. And it takes a special person, like you said, to be able to investigate those things.
Yeah.
Because you hear the justification, and you say, "Oh, that's good. Just put that down in paper for me."
Yeah.
People say, "How could you not wring that guy's neck?" I said, "Because that's not what we do. We don't solve the crime."
I want him in jail.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want him in jail. I want him off the streets. I want him to have to admit to that in open court.
Yeah.
I want all the facts out. And if I just choke him out, that's not going to happen.
Yeah. And then I tell people all the time, I said, when we dealt with those type of predators, my mentality was, that predator, he might get 5 years and he served his time. I said, but that victim is serving a life sentence. Yep. And that's what's not fair.
That's it. I actually, we talked about interrogation and dealing with these people in an episode one time, and I took it out because I didn't want to tip any hands about how we did things.
Uh-huh.
But there was such an art between the three of us, and there were times where we would sit down and say, which one of us is going to talk to this guy?
Yeah. And
we would figure out who had the right skill set, because between the three of us, we could come up with it.
Who could establish that? I can't think of the word.
Sort of a rapport.
Yeah, establish the rapport with the individual. That's what we looked for.
You had to, and it was, I don't know, it was such a synergy, and again, the dark humor and the jokes and all that stuff that we had really made that unit roll. Yeah. I'm really proud of that. That's one of the things I do. I have a lot of regrets about the path of my career. But that's one of the things that was the highlight of my career, was running that unit with you two guys and making it work. And again, it was, those are the kind of things you really couldn't talk about with other people.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're having trouble with it, you really didn't want to take it outside the house, outside of our little house. If something really touched you, and pulled a dead kid out of a car one time, looked just like my son, and it just.
Yeah,
those are kind of hard things to live with, but I could talk to you guys about it, and I remembered about that time I came home and I was having a really, really heavy case, and I sat down with a friend. We were getting ready to record some music, and he's like, "Man, you okay?" I said, "Dude, I'm having a rough day at work." And he goes, "Hey, you can tell me anything. I'm not gonna."
Yeah.
And I told him what was on my mind, and he looked at me. He goes, "Don't ever tell me about your day ever again.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
I do not want to go to bed with that."
Yeah.
So it's a special, again, I think synergy is the right word with you guys.
What probably started with it was that we were a working unit at the time.
Yeah.
Remember?
That was a strange deal. Yeah, there were a lot of politics then, and that kind of forged, I think, the way you and I began to think about police administration and all that. So I'd like to get into that. This is a strange climate for election.
Mm-hmm.
I think, anyway. How's that been from your end?
It's been good. Like it's been very trying sometimes because you tell people your agenda or what your vision is, and sometimes they make it to sound like, well, you can't do that, and they don't get the big picture because I've mentioned my experience, and I don't see how people can say, well, you can't model or like to be like a larger agency. I'm talking about our integrity, our professionalism. Why any agency can have that and improve on that, but they're focusing on, well, you can't make a big company into a small company. I understand that, but I'm talking about just our overall reputation of an agency to build that morale up. Because you know how the morale is. You've been around there for a long time. And it's to me, in my opinion, it's tanked in the last few time.
It has.
Especially in the last few months, it's tanked on stuff.
Yeah, so, I saw it, especially when I went over to the DA's office. And I don't know how much of that was an actual decline or just the outside looking in. And I think we had that talk before about kind of things were being said. And I've said this, we've had Tom Hayne in and a few other candidates have kind of gone down this path that no one is, besmirching Painter's memory or image or history. Right. We're just kind of being realistic about corners that need to be turned there.
Yeah,
I think. And then we were saying this before we left. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of us were. Again, even when we left, I look back on that unit, I look back on SWAT, and I thought, man, there's a lot of stuff I should have done differently. I should have paid more attention to this, or I shouldn't have focused so hard on this, mm-hmm. or we should have made this change, or whatever. And we should have been not quite so old-fashioned on this and gotten, especially when I saw I'd start seeing cases roll through.
Yeah.
And I got a chance to see how other agencies were doing it.
Right.
Being at the DA's office, like, man, I wish we were doing this back then.
Yeah.
Things like that. But what are the big, the big issues, the big things you want to go for there?
With the sheriff's office?
Yeah.
Well, when I was on patrol there, mental health is a big thing in today's society. And when I started with the sheriff's office the second time, we had a mental health guy out there. I think it was 24 hours a day, or at least till we in the morning, till 3 or 4 in the morning every shift. And they don't have that anymore.
Really?
No, it's 8 to 5, and they're on call.
Oh, okay.
So they're available, but yet sometimes we need that person at the call while we're there.
Right.
Because we're all trained to deal with certain situations, but not all. We don't have the expertise that those mental health people do, and I would like to see that covered 24 hours, not on an on-call basis.
Yeah, that'd be sharp. We talked before about how are we as far as in your opinion, the size of patrol and the agency in general, the manpower?
I thought about this the other day. One of my opponents made the comment about they run with 3 people on the shift sometimes as a minimum. And I was thinking, back in 81, we had 3 people on a shift.
Yeah.
And that's over 38 years ago, 37 years ago. It was the same number of people on the shift that had to be out there.
When Tom Hayne was in here, we had that conversation that when I was there evening shift, and you and I did not overlap in patrol.
No.
Right.
Mm-mm.
But you were evening.
Oh, midnights.
You were midnights, mm-hmm. Okay. That you might have 3 people assigned,
mm-hmm.
but inevitably, you got to shut down the interstate for an accident. Boom, that's 1, maybe 2. Maybe
mm-hmm.
you got DPS to help you. Maybe you don't. Maybe there's a couple of constables out to help you, or some stragglers from somewhere. But that's a thing. And then the districts haven't changed.
Right.
They're the same as the old JP districts before the gerrymandering thing and all like that. I think these are all things, in my opinion, need to be looked at.
Yeah. And then, people talked about the hours, 10-hour shift, 12-hour shifts. But as you know, 10-hour shift turns into 11, sometimes 12. So if you're working a 12-hour shift, that could be 13, 14 hours. And you got to come back in another 6 hours. You're saying that's not good for the deputy.
Yeah.
Because by the time you get home, you got to relax, and that takes a couple hours to get to sleep. And then you're worried about getting up on time, so you don't really sleep good for that time you're at home sometimes. So a lot of stuff to be looked at.
Compounded by just weird shifts. It's tough, especially midnights. That.
Yeah.
Just sleeping, just living. Biologically, it's tough. And
the clock.
Yeah, and that's when everything happens. Everybody's knocking on the door, or they need something. And then evenings was better. It fit my natural sleep cycle a lot better, but still.
See, mine was midnight. Always midnights.
Yeah,
I like midnights.
Really,
but then you get the call at 10 in the morning saying, "What about this?" Hey, man, I just got home.
Yeah, that always got me. I would be working a case or something. So, well, somebody call a patrolman and ask him, like, dude, this can wait till he's awake.
Yeah. Well, you and I talked that way because we had that. Said, let's wait till the 4 o'clock. It's not gonna. We don't need to know it at 9 o'clock. He just got home and been in bed. Hopefully,
yeah. That was one of the things that got me, and it still got me all the way at the DA's office. Is that people kind of either haven't done it, haven't done the patrol, haven't worked in the jail, haven't done those kind of things, or they've just forgotten it. And you're like, man, that guy, he's been asleep 2 hours.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Or they call you in for a meeting, in the middle of the day that would be easier on the sergeant or the supervisor. Say, man, I worked all night, guys. Jeez.
Yeah, I remember that. What's the trick to morale there? What do you think?
I think that they need to be listened to. Part of the solution sometimes. Say, what are your feelings? What's going on? Being involved with day-to-day activities. One of the big things I've heard over the years is the process on how the promotions go. I think it needs to be structured.
Oh, yeah.
It needs to be structured. And I was criticized for that. I said, well, you need to earn those positions on your own merit, not on anything else but merit. Because on that, if you give a written test, that's going to accomplish two things. It's going to show the dedication that the employee really wants the position, and he's going to be smarter. Right. Because he's going to dedicate himself to reading those books. He'll see things that he'd say, well, I never knew that was the law. Because a lot of times, as you know, working juveniles, you say, why did you do that? Well, that's what they told me to do. Well, who did that? Who told you that? Well, so-and-so. Where'd he get it from? Well, I don't know. Well, look at the law.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we have those. I'd love to see in police work in general. I may have had this. I know you and I talked about this because we were working together when Cliff said it, and my buddy Cliff Sykes, that he pointed out, and I don't know if it's an original idea or not, that in law enforcement there's a lot of physical courage, that we're trained to be courageous in situations by training us and learning to trust the training. Mm-hmm. It's not a John Wayne movie bravado. It's that if you do these things, your chances of surviving an incident and being successful increase.
Yeah.
And we're good at that in terms of running at gunfire, at driving fast, at arresting dangerous people. But you put them in charge where now you need emotional bravery, emotional courage. Mm-hmm. And I think we're lacking there. And that's one of the things I pride myself in. I think I was a sharp leader.
Yeah.
And like you said, I wanted you guys to be a part of it. And again, 3 totally different guys.
Yeah.
Different people from different walks of life. And we could joke about it, but we could come together. We could work as a unit. And everybody had, I never had to say, because I'm the boss, that's why.
Right.
There was always some, you guys saw a lot of things that I didn't.
Yeah.
And I think you guys were free to say, hey, I don't think this is right. And I didn't feel a lot of that above me when I was there.
Yeah.
Is that fair to say? Is that
I think so.
What you're looking at?
I think so.
Yeah. That's cool. How are you said, are you feeling supported? Are you just getting rained on by the community, or what's going on?
As far as out in the community?
Yeah. As far as like what's the sense, general sense that you're getting when you're out there? Let me ask this question better. I'm still a little airheaded. You have to forgive me. I see a couple of camps. I see the ones that want it to stay the way it has been for decades. And then I see people who want to change it. And I do see a gap between people who hear what's going on and people who know what's going on. And how's that, the whole election climate coming up, like when you go to an event now?
Well, I've got a lot of support out there. And people have always said, David, you got more support than you realize. And I'm actually seeing that. I want to go to events or I hear people talking in the community say, you know what, you go to some event and say, you've already had my support.
Yeah.
And I'm telling so-and-so who's telling so-and-so. And that's something that you can't realize until they actually tell you that,
Yeah.
And it's just been overwhelming for me.
That's good.
The line of support that I've received, word of mouth, face-to-face, It's nothing that I'm going out and soliciting. It's just coming to me on stuff. So...
You guys, I haven't solicited any political candidates. They're coming to me.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people listening.
Yeah.
Is this election? Is it getting dirty? I don't want to get into the politics or to the individual things. I've seen some. I hate Facebook, David. I hate Facebook, but I have seen some pretty, I'll call it hateful stuff coming from outside toward you, toward Tom especially, and toward Rory. I mean, I've seen it all over. Is that factoring in? Is it pretty easy to turn aside, or how's that going?
It's easy for me because I don't take anything personal. I tell people at DPS, I went to many oral boards for positions, and I didn't get it. No big deal. I'll do better next time. But if you look at, I have a Facebook page for my campaign, and I don't allow anything negative about anybody. That's my page, and it's to promote myself and who I am. Right. For people that don't know who I am, well, here's my character on a Facebook page. This is who I am. And I encourage people to, if they don't know me, well, talk to other people in the community. Talk to law enforcement, talk to people at my church, talk to people that have seen me on the street, talk to people that I've served in my constable position, how I treat people. Do I treat them with respect? Do I have integrity? Yes or no? What's my character like? Because I can explain who I am by myself all day long, but when you hear it from somebody else, they say, "Oh, he is that kind of guy."
Yeah.
So,
one of the things we talked about, I think it came up with Tom Hain, or I've done so many of these, I'm losing track. But in law enforcement, we have, it's Matt and Dave. We work at the sheriff's office. So the sheriff's office is awesome. Screw those guys over there in Odessa, and the guys at the PD, they're all jerks. Sheriff's office, we're awesome. Then you get to, operations side, we're awesome. Those guys in the jail, they're all morons. I don't want to talk to those guys. And then you start splitting operations. CID, we're it. Those other guys patrol, bunch of animals. And then you have our side, the sex crime side versus everybody else. We're it. And it typically goes down to the individual. With us, it stopped at that unit. That's where it ended. Mm-hmm. If there's a problem, we dealt with it. And I would love it. The whole public and everybody could kind of absorb that and go, hey, our goal is to get the best sheriff here.
Yeah.
And not the most popular, not our social pick. Mm-hmm. Not our high school popular pick, but the best one.
Yeah, the best candidate.
What makes you the best one?
Makes you the best one?
I'll throw that out there. I got to ask a candidate question.
Okay,
well,
I think based on my experience, like I said, I'm the most experienced candidate in all 4 phases of the law enforcement that we deal with.
Right.
I'm the only one that has a bachelor's degree of the candidates, which I didn't realize that until recently. I said, well, that's something that needs to be out there because that shows my dedication, my professionalism.
You're just criminal justice, right?
Yeah, criminal from UTPB. Like we talked about the 4 phases of law enforcement, the criminal law, traffic law, family code, and civil law, and I'm proficient in all those areas, and I've worked those areas, and I think that because of that I'm the best candidate, and I've got me, my character, what I stand for and what I don't stand for, that I will run an office that's defined by its integrity and how we treat people with respect. Because you have to do that as administrator. It's not my sheriff's office; it's y'all's sheriff's office. I'm just the administrator of it, and I'm going to make sure that it's ran with dignity and respect other people.
I like what Leonard Dumeyer said when he was in here the other day, that his approach is leadership through stewardship, and I think you're reflecting that.
Yeah,
I think we did in our career. Yeah. We worked for victims, and everybody else get out of the way.
Yeah, and we had that integrity in our unit. You know how you define integrity. If you have it, nothing else matters. If you don't have integrity, nothing else matters either.
It's true. Well, I like what Congressman Larry Combis used to say, that integrity is what you're going to do when nobody else is looking.
Yeah.
So
in our career together, you entrusted me to do my job, and I don't think you ever had to second guess. Well, what's Criner doing? Is he out messing around, or is he doing his job? And you know what I was doing. I was out there trying to get these guys off the street.
There is a natural thing when you got 2 groups of investigators. You had us and you had them, and them would sit around and drink coffee about how us aren't doing anything because we're not there and all. And I remembered one day I was back by myself. You guys were gone, and the secretary came in and made a crack. You guys are never in the office. And I said, at any given time, you call me or shoot me a text, I know where my crew is and what they're doing.
Yeah.
And they're working.
Yeah.
If they're not working, it's because they worked last night.
Yeah.
Or they're going to work tonight.
Yeah.
And
in our cases, you couldn't work our cases from your desk.
No.
You had to go out and talk to people, interview people.
And you would have one case and immediately it would spawn 6 appointments.
Yeah.
You had to do all these things. You had forensic interview. You had the medical tests, and you had the results of that, and then all the witness interviews that came up from that, and then all the meetings, and we peer reviewed our cases. And that's a big thing. Nobody else was doing that.
No.
We would peer review with every other agency filing sex crimes in Midland that went through the Rape Crisis Center CAC. Big, big weird thing.
A lot of stuff with CPS.
Oh yeah,
in those days.
Speaking of civil and family law, amazing stuff. Amazing. You have any events or anything coming up that you guys are coming up to the wires or anything happening?
Tomorrow we have a Midland College event at 1 o'clock from 1 to 2. Richard McKee is heading that up, the chief at Midland College.
Oh, yeah.
It's a forum. I'm not sure what type of forum it's going to be.
That's right. Okay. This is the one, who told me? Somebody talked about this while we were recording, that this is the one where the public gets asked questions, right?
I don't know.
Okay, I think it is.
I haven't seen the outline of it yet. I know that we've only had one that I can recall where the public actually asked questions, and that was out in Greenwood. Well, the Midland College when you're talking about, was League of Women Voters, and people submitted questions on cards, and
maybe
Ted and Gwen asked the questions to us as we were on the board.
I forgot about that. Okay.
Yeah, so that was that. Richard, I'm not sure what Richard McKee's going to do. I have not heard for sure.
I can't. So this is my memory.
It all runs together.
I knew I was going to be in Houston, and I'm in Houston when that one goes down. Okay, so you get the one in Midland College, and then early voting is running all the way through
the 28th.
The 28th. Mm-hmm. So that's the Friday before
Super Tuesday.
Yeah. Okay. Fantastic.
And then I've got a deal with Channel 7. They're doing a live Facebook thing that they've been interviewing all the candidates for all the different offices. And mine's Wednesday night at 8 o'clock from 8 to 8:30.
I have not seen that.
Yeah, it's on Channel 7's app.
Okay.
But it's live Facebook stuff. We are being interviewed by one of the anchors, either the evening crew, and they're going to ask you questions and then submit questions via, I don't know how they do it, but they do it on Facebook and they ask you questions.
It's got to be better than some nobody podcaster in his game room.
Yeah.
Sipping tea with your pinky out, right?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that's cool. I couldn't do it. We were talking about that the other day. Some buddies and I, after all these guys, the political climate and the work and just law enforcement. I have a lot of respect for all three of you running, because at the end of my career, not just because of my illness, but I was tired.
Yeah. And
for you guys to have the interest to go just jump right back into it deeper than you have before that's something.
Yeah.
So let me see. I was going to ask some of the same things I asked Tom. So according to the rumor, you're going to go in there and fire everybody and hire all your cousins, right?
I haven't heard that rumor.
I don't know. They always say that when there's a new sheriff or somebody's running. They always say, don't vote for that guy. This is when you're working there, in the jail or whatever. And they say, don't vote for that guy because he's going to fire everybody and hire everybody from his family or whatever.
Yeah.
Have you made any statements about staff or changes or anything?
No,
like that?
and you have to, as a candidate, you're limited to what you can and cannot do. And I confirmed this with elections office, because some people have said, well, so-and-so is going to be on my agenda in my personnel.
Right.
You can't do that as a candidate, because you don't have the job yet. That's making a promise that you can't necessarily fulfill. So I've stayed away from that.
Okay, so let me interrupt. I need to ask about that. We dealt with some weirdness with the judges about stuff we couldn't talk about. So you're saying if I say I'm running for sheriff and David is going to be my chief or my patrol lieutenant or whatever, I can't do that because David you might have moved off or retired and decided not to do it, or
I think what the law implies is that you can't make a promise to somebody in order to garnish their support or their vote for an election.
Oh, okay. But okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I could see that if you're offering them a job for their support. Okay. That makes okay. I see where it could be construed as that. Yeah. Whether or not you're just saying that's my guy, because that's something I would understand. Tom announced the chief deputy, and I could see where that could be confusing, I guess.
Because you're electing that person as to be the sheriff.
Right.
And then you're showing your confidence in him that he's going to make the right decisions and align himself with good people. And I'll tell you,
Man,
what I'm
that's
looking
some
for,
huge print.
Well, what I'm looking for, when I get the question about chief deputy, they say,
Right.
well, what are you looking for in a chief deputy? Well, I'm going to look for a person that's high character and integrity, that's very experienced and professional, and also that has administration experience and a person of good judgment and who treats others with respect.
You didn't say dead handsome, so it's not me.
No,
you're not. Okay.
Well, I can't say if it's you or not.
But those are good. Those are good qualities, and that would stack a good administration.
Yeah,
I mean, that's where we should.
But that's what I'm looking for, and I'm going to accept people. Hey, if you want to become my chief deputy, submit your name, and you'll be considered.
Okay.
That's the only fair way to do that.
That's pick them the way you pick your sheriff, right?
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah. I want to have because you don't know who might be interested.
Right.
And they said, well, I thought I might want to do that. But we never came and approached me and said that you might want to do that. But please don't approach me until after March 3rd.
I have learned on a large scale in my career and on a small scale in just doing this little cheesy podcast, there's so much value in somebody asking you and somebody who wants to take that initiative. That's good.
Yeah.
Rather than just waiting for the phone to ring.
Yeah. So I'm sure there's quality people that might consider becoming my chief deputy.
Yeah, and there's a lot of them out there.
And I'm open to say, come talk to me.
Yeah.
But after I reach, have that the nomination, for November, because then I can talk about more stuff like that.
Got it.
But while there's a race that's contested, you're not supposed to talk about that because it could be construed as promising somebody something for whatever reason.
Okay. So you say it's not okay. I understand what you're saying. And I get it. Just extra caution
on my part. Well, you know how I am.
I know how you are,
and I don't want anything to upset the apple cart. I don't want to go down that street. Truthfully, I haven't talked to anybody about it, and I don't want to. I'm focused on becoming the next sheriff of Midland County.
I don't know how that is. Chris and I rained on you for your level of, we'll call it detail to be nice. I mean, we're a detail-oriented unit, but yeah, that was. Yeah. I remembered that.
Yeah.
That's good. And one of the things again, this podcast has mostly been about getting to know people and sharing experiences and how awesome my friends and I all are for the stuff we've done. What do you do when you're not running for sheriff or not being constable? What does David do? I know the answer, but I just want to hear you say it.
What do you think the answer is?
You're a family guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I spend time with my wife, my grandkids.
Yeah.
All of my off-duty time is with my wife and my grandkids. Is what I do. Yeah,
that's always been your. Well, and you collect a lot of stuff. People give you a cool office.
Yeah, I've got a lot of trinkets.
But that was kind of a testament to your family and what you guys did is all stuff people have brought you and whatnot.
Yeah, it's been good. It's been a blessing.
How are they about all this?
Good, very supportive. Judy's tired. But I've got a good tight family that supports me.
Yeah. How long have you two been married? If
38 years.
About it, 38. Wow.
38 years.
I really. It's crazy how time flies. How long Nicole and I have been together. We were talking about the other day. Our first date was in 1996. It's been going strong since.
See, Judy's and I was back in 1980.
Yeah. Hey, we talked about. Your Valentine's Day deal, I would get you guys a gift certificate on your anniversary.
Well, yeah.
And I got you and your wife gift certificate to Manny's.
No,
right?
What happened? What happened was you found out it was our anniversary, and you told me to go to Manny's. I'd never been to Manny's before, and so I said, "Oh yeah, we'll try that out." And the bill never came.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And I said, Manny, where's my bill? And he said, Matt took care of it.
Yeah.
And that impacted me quite a bit. And ever since then, we go to Manny's for Valentine's. Not always on Valentine's Day because I figured out, I think we went to Manny's that next time for Valentine's, and they changed the menu on Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So we go a few days before Valentine's Day because Judy likes lasagna and I like spaghetti, and that's not on the Valentine bank, the menu.
Yeah, they just cut it down to like 5 dishes, right?
Yeah. Because they're so busy, and I can understand that. So We learned that, and so we go a few days beforehand.
That's cool. We all want to go together sometime, man.
I go there. What I do is I go there the afternoon of, and I have a dozen roses, and I ask the new owner, I say, hey, man, Judy and I will be here at 6. Please have a table for us. And when we walk in, our table's next to the window that faces Wadley, and a dozen roses that are waiting for my wife.
All right, man.
So it's good.
That's why you've been married for such a long time. So. Yeah, we were extra romantic this Valentine's Day. I was an infusion at MD Anderson, but they were really cool to us. You know? And fortunately, I didn't feel too bad. But I cooked. We got home. I cooked her favorite of a braised salmon.
Yeah.
Thing, or maybe it was ahi tuna. I can't remember. So that's the other thing. My memory's crap. It has been awesome digging up old memories with you guys. Like I said, when I was watching Breaking Bad and thinking about I know it's hard to picture David Criner in the dark humor, but you brought a lot of light, a lot of center to that unit.
Yeah,
I think
I appreciate it.
It was interesting how that worked. And I don't want to talk about it too much because that's not the topic of this. It's just a cool memory for me. Again, I keep using this 5th time I've said it, I think, is synergy.
Yeah.
Because we had somebody was the peak, somebody was in charge of everything in terms of the dynamics.
Mm-hmm.
And, you guys would talk me out of a tree before I said something stupid.
Yeah.
Or just whatever we needed.
And when I got promoted into juveniles, we didn't even know each other.
No,
and we clicked right off the bat. It was like a well-oiled machine. I just plugged in, and we just kept on going.
That unit is how the world should be. That's how people. Again, 3 very different backgrounds, and how within months we're just completely screwing with each other over it. I mean, in dark humor.
And I think people were jealous of us on how well we got along and how well we did our jobs together.
I think so. I think the flow of our work had a lot to do with it because we were able to stay busy. And also, I was the only sergeant in CID that worked cases. Mm-hmm. That actually, like, not just paper cases, but I was out with you guys. I think that made a lot of difference.
Yeah. People don't realize how busy we were back there.
No.
We had a lot of cases back there.
Yeah.
And I don't remember a time where we were requested by, like, the DA's office saying, well, where's this at? We always had our ducks in a row because of your supervision. They make sure we got all our ducks in a row and present the case. And we never had that I can recall.
The one thing that I think I brought to that, and if I were running or something like that, is there's always a review. Mm-hmm. So if you think about it, by the time our case made it, by the time you wrote a case, and I even had you guys look over my cases because nobody was checking mine.
Right.
Mine went from my desk to the DA. Mm-hmm. Yours had to go through me. Right. And I would be able to check stuff. And not that you guys made stupid mistakes. We made too busy mistakes, or I just lost this or whatever mistakes. But I'd say, hey, man, you're missing this. You're missing your evidence sheet, or you're missing this interview. Mm-hmm. Where's this, or that kind of thing. Then we would have the big review with the child protection team, the whole of all Midland. So everybody was there, PD and whoever was working cases before it went to the DA. So then it got looked at again.
Right.
And I like to see that kind of work. I know that's not the culture of 70s and 80s law enforcement that we fought against at the sheriff's office, because it's you don't let anybody else look at your work. You cover your work. You put your head down, and you don't let those guys look at it. Yeah. And I just popped that off out of my mouth. You didn't say that, but I'd kind of like your thoughts on it about being a little bit more open as far as cooperation with other agencies and other places.
Well, I think that we need to utilize those resources that are out there for us. You know, when we were in, I guess, quote unquote, persons crime stuff, we'd see the other juvenile investigators, and we would share cases, and we'd learn from each other. And they would say, well, we've had the same situation over here. Maybe look at this sometimes. But we have to have that interaction because we feed off of that.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, the sheriff's office went to a persons crime, property crime system. I'm not 100% on that.
I'm not sure either.
Back when we did it, it was kind of different, but I think they did sort of update with that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I do. I said this before. I want to see everybody get along.
Yeah.
I want to see everybody work cases.
Yeah.
And
like I said, everybody in law enforcement has the same common goal, and that's to keep criminals off our streets.
Yeah.
And that's what we need to do. That's our job. That's what we took an oath to do.
Yeah.
Is to
that kind of thinking is important, I think, when you really do look at that oath. And, do you even remember it? And we in my academy, we had to memorize the Fourth Amendment. Yeah, that was a big thing here. That integrity and that operation within the Constitution, how important that is to everybody.
Yeah.
And the cool thing that I like, another memory, it was Jim Dodson. Used to teach at the regional academy where I was. He would write across the top of the back blackboard, or I am young enough that we had
chalkboard,
grease boards in there. They just got them, but said there is no right way to do a wrong thing.
Yeah,
across the top.
Yeah,
and so we were. I came in right after Rodney King, so that was a big deal for us. That was in all of our college courses and in the academy. Cool. So you doing a website or just Facebook, or how's that working?
I've got Facebook. I also have a website, crinerformidland.com. Facebook's David Criner. Have a lot of stuff on that. And then just mail outs, what we're doing right now.
Good deal. Well, we'll get shut down. This the podcast is obviously on YouTube and just about any format where you get your audio. I think we're on Spotify, iTunes, and all that. So just look us up. The Van Cave at vancave.com. We'll have David's website in the footer. And I guess if you have any questions, they can just ask you.
Ask me. Yeah. 432-230-8767.
Wow.
Or send me a PM or IM, whatever it's called. And I'll probably say, well, call me at this number and we'll discuss it. It's yes or no question.
He does answer those and say, call me, because I got an email. Hey, you want to be on the podcast? Okay, call me. There it went. Cool. Well, it has been fantastic hanging out with you again. I thought about the reason we don't is typically you were too busy. Man, it took us 3 swipes to book you here. So I know you guys are going crazy.
Yeah. Thank you, Matt.
You're very welcome.
I appreciate your friendship all these years. And
it's been fun. I miss working with you guys.
Had a lot of yucks.
Jeez, we did, man. I
learned a lot from yourself and from Chris. It was just we were a well-oiled machine.
We were. It was. I miss the jokes. I miss that feeling of coming to work.
Yeah.
That was.
It makes a big difference when you enjoy. You can't wait to get to work.
Yeah.
Because you never know what Chris would have up his sleeve for you.
Yeah. And you guys. Yeah, it was horrible.
But Chris, I love Chris dearly and his wife dearly.
Yeah.
It was good.
I would sit and listen to you guys just firmly break balls first thing in the morning. I'd be in my office going through paperwork and just listening to the two of you. And I'm sitting here thinking, do they really like each other? He was calling you Fruit Stripe because you had that one shirt.
Yeah, that shirt.
Yeah. It was a blast.
Skating. Thought it was skaters and stuff, and the Jolly Rancher candy wrappers.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, that was the best.
That was a blessing I'll never forget in my lifetime working with you and Chris back there.
It was a good time. And I look back on that, and with that unit, as smooth as it was, and even as short as we were all together, we accomplished a lot. And I've looked back over that when I was at the DA, and our conviction rate was stellar.
Yeah, and in thinking back, I never have had to testify. Our cases were rock solid back in those days.
I had to do a few, and they were typically they went to trial for reasons other than anything was sketchy or whatever. Yeah. But I don't. The ones we've lost, you couldn't help but lose because there was just very little evidence, barely enough evidence to get it past. That a grand jury would want it tried, even though we didn't have it. Yeah. And I think we handled all of it so well, especially with the false cases and we had the nuisance cases and all the weirdness that went on in that. And I think
and you bring that up, because we made sure that a crime actually was committed.
Yeah.
And and you and I and Chris, that happens. It's not, you have to give everybody due process.
Yep.
But just because someone said something happened, we investigated both sides. And many times we'd find out, well, why did you do that? Well, I thought it sounded better, or I didn't like the person. That's why I made those accusations.
I got scared. And you have to deal with, not only the horror of child molesters, but just the evil in somebody's soul to falsely accuse another person of being a child molester. And
for alternative motives.
For divorces or whatever. And we had some of those going forever and ever. And it was just, it was good to be around good people at work that you trust. You, me, and Chris in that crew, and then go home and have that. And then go to like our CPT meetings and be around other people like that. That was such a unique place to be a cop. Yeah. It was a good place to finish my career at the sheriff's office. And that was one of the reasons I left. It's like, it's not going to get better than this. No. This is a piece. Yeah. I can't make this happen anywhere else. Right. Because virtually everything that happened there was within my control. Right. We were able to fight off a lot, together, a lot of opposition and a lot of the old way of thinking, and a lot of the jealousy and infighting and all that. It's just organic to working in the government, I think. Right. That's cool.
Okay.
Well, this has been fun. I've talked too much, but you've nailed it, man. And best of luck. I hope you get some sleep, man. I know you're probably sleeping at stoplights like Brandon is, but as busy as you guys are. And we'll be watching for you. Best of luck to you. And hey, man, come back around anytime.
Thank you, sir.
Another interesting thing, if you become sheriff, I can now say I was a supervisor at one time of both the chief of police, Seth Thurman, and then Sheriff David Criner.
That's
exactly
pretty
cool. I should be able to wear a feather.
What a unique opportunity, huh?
Yeah. I should be able to get like a pimp cup for that, like a big goblet. Fantastic, sir. Cheers to you, my friend.
Thank you, friend. Appreciate you.
Best of luck, and I hope it works out for you.
Thank you.
Say hello to your bride for me. I miss seeing her, too.
Yeah, I will. Thank you.
All right, man. Thank you.